Gamecock Nation, what is up? Wednesday episode of the show. That's Chris Clark right beside me. I am Wes Mitchell. This is brought to you by our good friend Clint Hammond of the Mortgage Network. ClintHammond.com is how you can find any information you need about Clint. But if you're ready to call him right now, keep the show on in the background. Give Clint a call, 803-771-6933 or 803-422-6797. Or you can just email him, chammond@mortgagenetwork.com. 71597 is the NMLS number. Again, appreciate Clint. He's our primary presenting show sponsor right here on GC Live, and he is the absolute best at what he does. Refinance, home buying, whatever it is you need, Clint's got you. I promise you he'll take care of you. By the way, mention Gamecock Central when you give him a call. He's liable to talk about South Carolina football with you for 90% of the conversation. Again, he's Chris. I'm Wes. Lots going on. Chris, 10 days, believe it or not, 10 days until kickoff. I can already tell from the YouTube numbers. We learned this last year. The second you can start talking about actual ball, the numbers start going like this. And shout out to everybody. Appreciate all the support from everyone that has ever watched a single show because the numbers, dude, Monday was, and there wasn't even any breaking news Monday, I don't think. Monday was probably one of our biggest non-breaking news, non-big story shows in a long time, if you just look at the numbers. So I say that not to pat us on the back. I say that to say we appreciate everybody who is joining and has helped made this show, which started out as me and Chris just hopping on here, BSing around, answering questions. You guys have helped us grow this thing a little bit. So we are excited about that. And we're very excited about the future of GamecockCentral.com. Chris, football is upon us. What's up?
Yeah, man, it's getting close. I noticed that the other day when we were on the show. I was like, wow, the numbers are popping here. I think people are really excited for football. And, this is, I think, Wes, I was trying to stack this up as far as the level of anticipation for this season. It's the highest I can remember in quite a while. I think certainly you look back to, all the way back to 2005, Steve Spurrier's first game, home opener against UCF. It was insane back then. A little bit different vibe because social media wasn't huge then and all these different things, but lots of excitement there, right? Some of the golden years of the Spurrier era, there was a lot of excitement because, some of those 11-win season teams or after the SEC East title, in 2010, going into 2011, a lot of excitement. There was a lot of high expectations then. But this one, man, is I think, interesting because in some form or fashion, going to be a more normal season as far as capacity inside the stadium. So there's that coming off of a very weird year last year. And then, a new coaching staff. So a lot of intrigue with how the team's going to look from a schematic standpoint, some of the new faces, some of the faces that we've already seen and fans have already seen, how are they going to look? And then the Shane Beamer era. Obviously, he's done a really good job of injecting positivity and excitement into this football program. So I think a lot of anticipation, and I think that's why our numbers here on the show are reflective of that.
Yeah, and dude, I think that there's kind of an interesting. We've talked about this a little bit, so I don't want to go all into it. There's an interesting is dichotomy the word? I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for or not. It's interesting if you look at the short term versus the big picture. I think the excitement right now is not even necessarily. I think you look at Spurrier when he first got here. But then as the program kept growing, the excitement was like, hey, this team can compete for the East. And this team is going to be playing in a lot of national games that matter in your conference. The excitement is really not about that right now. I think the excitement comes with a full understanding that this season may not be, the best season in the world, but I think it's just more about having some hope again, having just a feeling that maybe there are better days ahead and feeling like there's hope that some good things could happen. I think it's more, I did it was one of the national guys yesterday on the radio, and they were asking what are the thoughts from the fan base right now, and I tried to frame it up. I was like, look, everybody's incredibly excited, but it has more to do with like the long-term potential health of the program, building it the right way. I feel like there's pretty much an understanding, which is good to have realistic expectations. There's pretty much an understanding that this probably is not going to be a 10-win season, but people are still excited. They want to see a new approach, a new quarterback, a new offensive coordinator, a new defense coordinator, a new specialty. Everything is fresh. So I think we talked about it Monday, Chris. At no point would anybody have ever been like super excited about South Carolina playing Eastern Illinois. To be completely honest, I have to double check myself before I say that sentence because I keep forgetting who they play in week 1 because I don't. I'm being completely honest. It's who knows anything about Eastern Illinois if South Carolina was not playing them in this market?
Yeah,
no one.
Nobody.
But there's excitement not because of the opponent, but because of getting to see so many different new things and new players and new schemes and new approaches and all this different stuff. And I'll tell you, man, from my perspective, it was so freaking refreshing that we heard from the coordinators today. And we heard from coordinators during preseason, during Will Muschamp's era. But guys, go ahead, mark your calendars. Every Tuesday during the season will be the Shane Beamer press conference. Every Wednesday is going to be coordinators press conference. So you will hear from your OC and your DC every single week about what's going on. I used the word refreshing last week, equally as refreshing today. Marcus Satterfield and Clayton White, two just very interesting people. I like hearing them talk. I learn something from them every time. And they try, without giving away all their secrets, they try to give you some good answers, I feel like. So that's much better, y'all, from a content standpoint, that you're going to be able to hear from your coordinators, and then we're going to be able to talk about what the coordinators said.
It is. It's cool. And I was having this discussion with someone the other day. And look, I personally, Wes, think that you can, when it comes to wins and losses, right, the most important thing is develop your players, have great players, develop them. That's what really counts in terms of wins and losses. But there's something to be said with the fan base connection and the media connection, which is obviously a conduit between the program and the fans. And so at this point, especially of this program, I think doing those things is important. I think it's something that the fans appreciate. The media, one way or another, it's great for us content. The more people that can talk, the more access we get. But we'll do our thing either way, or we'll try our best, right? But for the fans, I think they enjoy that even more. And I think here's the point that I was going back to, that I was talking to someone about the other day. When certain players maybe don't get to speak, or when certain coaches don't get to speak, I do think there's a situation in which if things aren't going as well, that's when you tend to get kind of the bad feeling from the fans, or the conspiracy theories start, all those types of things. So when you have a little bit more of that transparency, hearing from the coordinators, trying to get inside their head, or at least having them say what they were thinking in certain situations, even if people don't like it, disagree with it, call it dumb, call it smart, whatever it may be, you at least hear it, right? And so Dennis explained, you get perspective on it. It's not just one more thing that fans can latch onto and say, what's the answer to this? Because if there's not an answer, a lot of times you're going to see one or many of them kind of made up. And I personally think that as a coach, as a program, you want to try to avoid that, because there's going to be some rough patches, some rough plays, some rough games this year. And so whether it's good or bad, having that kind of connection and transparency, I think, can help with the program.
No doubt, man. So I was out there this morning. This is how you also know when the season is upon us, is when everything starts to really get shut down as far as practice, being out there. I believe this is the final open session of practice was this morning. And we're so for some reason, Chris, I always remember this, and I have no idea why this is stuck with me. But Bill Gunner, WG, however, different people call him different things, but good friend of mine, he's on 107.5, obviously. Every year he says that football is here, his signal that, hey, it's right around the corner is so silly, but this is such a WG thing, and it stuck with me, is that when you go to the grocery store and you get your milk and the expiration date is on or after the first game, meaning that if you're close enough that the milk expires after game one, that means football season is here. Like, it's here.
Right.
And for some reason, the fact how he came up with that, I don't know. But every time I bought milk over the weekend, and it said September 1st expiration date, I was like, we are close, guys. Like, we are here. We are on it.
My favorite one is how you once you get into into football season, the fall, whatever it may be, even though it's still blazing hot, you call it the fall. Once you get into it, there's no months anymore. It's football games. That's how you measure like time and things. So it's not, October 10th. That's Kentucky, right? Like, whether it's, hey, when are we going camping? Bye week or Kentucky week, whatever it may be. There's no more months or dates. It's just football games. That's how you measure it.
Yeah, for me, it's next week is week 1. Eastern Illinois doesn't even like get the designation, but everything past that, like the SEC games, oh, that's Kentucky week, or oh, hey, that's Clemson week. Oh, is that the bye week? Yeah, we can go out of town.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. It is funny how in this market, if you're a South Carolina fan, and all SEC teams is pretty much the same way. Everything gets based around football and the football schedule, which is what really makes it fun. So we're out there today. I would say, Chris, and I'm going to try to pull our intern extraordinaire, Kendall, got some video. Let's see if I can pop this up to where we can talk over it, y'all. Y'all hang with me. There's a couple steps you have to do to where it doesn't just drown us out, but actually we're able to talk over it. Can everybody see that? Yeah, there we go. Chris, so welcome site today. Number 20 in Garnet for the Gamecocks. Getting in some actual work. Now, as you see here, helmets, pads, shorts, which means you're not fully padded. There's 20 right there. Kevin Harris taking that next step. You see here some drills against air, catching the football out of the backfield. You're going to see a couple throws from Zev Nolan in here as well. But, Chris, it seems like that is progressing. I think from what Satterfield said today, still not quite full contact cleared. But the fact they're letting him dress out, they're letting him wear garnet, which generally if you are non-contact, you're wearing blue. It is a very, very positive sign for South Carolina fans about Kevin Harris's progress so far.
It is, man, and you're in a situation where, no disrespect to Eastern Illinois, and let me just issue a disclaimer that'll be standard. South Carolina's going to have to play well to beat Eastern Illinois, right? Like they're going to need to go out there and not turn the ball over 7-8 times, all that kind of stuff. But on paper, this is a game in which if you're going to not be full strength, right? Okay, get your guys ready. And so whether that applies to, there's a few guys, right? It's Kevin Harris, who's farther along than some of the other guys, a Luke Doty, a Cam Smith at corner. These are situations where you're not going to rush the guys back. And that's the same deal with Kevin. But the fact that you've got other backs, Marshawn Lloyd, Zaquandre White, guys that feel good back there and are healthy, and you still are able to get Kevin back into practice, albeit in a limited capacity, but you're still able to get him back out there. Certainly a positive sign, right? Because you don't have to rush him back. You don't have to feel compelled if we've got to get 20 out there. Obviously, you want him out there. He's a really good player. He's one of your best overall players on this football team. But still, really positive sign, especially when you look at it kind of in the proper context, that they're able to get him back out there now. So we'll see, game one, it certainly looks positive. And will he play as much as he will against some of the other opponents? I would think not in game one, assuming he's full go, no setbacks. Definitely a good thing to have him out there. You want to be as full strength as possible, going into this opener.
Yeah, no doubt. Terry says, no, it's not positive. What are we talking about there, Terry? I don't know which part. Give us some detail. Let's see. Rob says, What would it take for Kevin Harris to be the second greatest running back in program history? Could that happen? Is it possible? Whew. That I don't
I
know,
wonder
man.
who's Rob got as the number one running back in program history. What's his 1 and 2 currently? I would like to know that.
Well, it's got to be Big George, right? I mean, it has to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing he's got Big George and then Marcus up there, right? That's what I'm thinking. But
yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even like those conversations because here's the thing. It's like and there are guys that we never saw with our own eyes.
Sure.
That are up there, that are in this conversation. So, what Wadiak way back in the day was an absolute stud, they say. There's not, some of these guys, there's not even actual film out there that you can find of them. I don't know, man. I think Kevin would have to have a massive, massive, massive season to be in that conversation. And that's nothing against Kevin. I mean, that is a high bar to get to. And I don't know if there's going to be enough of those carries. Like this is going to be a running back. Normally when you say running back by committee, that's a negative because sometimes that means you don't have one guy. But man, I think they have enough dudes, like they have enough guys that are really, really good that you have to find a way to get most of them on the field.
And, the thing is, man, to go back to the question about, 1 and 2, I think a lot of that's kind of in the eye of the beholder, and people are going to count things. I mean, look, here's a good example. Kevin Harris, he's now getting on some of those preseason lists now that people went back and kind of reviewed what happened last year. We've seen him get onto more preseason lists, preseason All-SEC, second team, things like that. But it would be crazy to not say that Harris probably has been hurt in terms of his stock by the fact he played on a 2-win team last year. And so I think part of how he'll be viewed is going to come down to, how good is his football team. George Rogers, a lot of people don't even remember, hey, what was the record of the 1979, 1980 Gamecock football team? Some people may know, right? But it was a while back, and the thing you remember about George Rogers is he put up huge numbers. He's a first-round pick, and he won the Heisman. Like, that's the biggest thing. I mean, his crown jewel accomplishment is he wins the Heisman. Marcus Lattimore, he's more recent. He's a 5-star recruit. He was a stud on the field, right? Like, you saw it, and you saw it much more recently than George Rogers. And he also played on some really good teams that made some history, right? So I think when you look at Kevin – you're not just going to look at the stats. People aren't going to only look at that. They're also going to look at what happened, around him. And so that story is yet to be written. And I think that's going to play a role in it as far as, how people will view him.
So let's dive back into practice as well, Chris. Let's see. Luke Doty out there as expected was out of his cast. He got out of his cast on Sunday, was sort of walking around, still was in a boot. Had the one crutch on one side, boot on the other thing going, was as involved as he could be, getting in there, like, mentally being involved. Cam Smith continues to progress, was not practicing, but was actually walking. I saw him actually get into a little bit of a jog. It looked like as he was going to the indoor facility. EJ Jenkins in blue non-contact, but was dressed, was out there. That's a positive sign for him as well. They, Satterfield said they are, I think he said, like, they're hoping that he'll be ready and good to go for week 1. Relatively healthy. I think you look at this team. Somebody was asking about Marshawn Lloyd earlier. Marshawn Lloyd, 100% good to go. No issues there. He is completely healthy. So for the most part, yes, they've had to deal with some guys being a little bit banged up coming in, but for the most part, Chris, they have remained pretty healthy. I think I also think it is safe to say most of the depth chart, most of the number ones, we reported this on Gamecock Central. Most of the ones, you don't want to say it's set, but it's pretty, like, they're working towards where they pretty much know who these starters are. Quarterback is obviously the big conversation that remains. We've sort of framed it. Hey, Zeb Nolan, maybe the favorite, probably the favorite. But then when coaches keep saying, hey, Jason Brown, I think, Jason Brown's had his best week of practice. Jason Brown is still making progress. The addition of Zeb Nolan, Chris, has done what you wanted it to do. Not only could he possibly be your starter, but it's pushed some of the other guys to play a bit better as well. And it's kind of funny how that happens. It's not that guys weren't working hard before. I'm sure they are, but it's something about raising the entire level of the room that one guy stepping into the mix can do.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I think Jason Brown kind of recognized where he was after spring ball, to his credit. Exiting spring, it was a healthy Luke Doty as your number one. Colton Gauthier, as a true freshman, had kind of established himself as the number 2 guy, and Brown was number 3. Now, that surprised some fans, some observers, might have even surprised some media members, but that's kind of how it ended up playing out. And so what Jason Brown did in the offseason, he goes out, he reshapes his body, he drops some weight, works hard, and now is more comfortable, within the playbook, within the system. Now, are there strides to continue to make for him and everybody? Yes. But he has gotten better in that regard in terms of being more comfortable within this offense, and that's going to be important for him. You can tell, Wes, that Marcus Satterfield is really, when I say concerned with, not he's worried, he might be, but he is really honing in on and harping on not turning the football over. That's going to be critical for this team, especially with explosion and being able to manufacture big plays in the passing game. That's a question for them. So one way they can counteract that, be strong in the running game, don't turn the football over in the passing game. And so that's a point of emphasis for Jason Brown and for everyone. He seems happier with it as of late with Brown. And so we'll see, how this continues to play out as they get closer and closer.
It in some ways, it may have tightened up a little bit, Chris. I think if we were reporting the beginning of this week, if it was like game week, I think we'd be saying Zeb Nolan's your starting quarterback. Still could be the case, but it sounds like things have sort of really started to tighten up, and we'll see which direction they go. I guess you maybe give a slight edge to Zeb, but I don't think anybody quite knows for sure exactly how that's going to play out, and they're waiting to see the situation with Luke Doty as well. So again, coordinators spoke today. Some interesting stuff there. Maybe most interesting were a couple of little notes from Clayton White. Chris, I always like when a coach says almost exactly what we've been saying on Gamecock Central. And in the case of Tyrese Ross, that's a guy we've started to hear some buzz. We've reported some really positive things about him and how I think we framed it like, hey, he's pushing into the mix to play and potentially start. Well, Clayton White says, look, this guy is one of our top 2, which would be your starter, or 3, which would mean you're the next guy in at the safety position. So always good when all that matches up. But he also added something else we said. The kid's a thumper. He nails people. He brings an old school attitude. Clayton White compared him to Steve Atwater, and that's going like pretty deep in the vault there, I think. But Chris, it was kind of funny. I laughed a little bit. Nobody else laughed. I thought it was kind of funny. He said, this is a guy that'll hit you. He's like, now it's hit or miss right now. Kind of, like sometimes he goes to lay the wood and it's a swing and a miss. So they're trying to work through some of those things, getting him more comfortable in the scheme, etc. All the things you're talking about with a new player. But, he was like, this kid's a really good addition to our team. It sounds to me like Ross is quickly ascending the list of the list at safety of the guys who are going to play the most snaps. He was down here because he missed the beginning of practice, and he is quickly rising that list.
Well, and that's one of the ones, we talked about it on the show Monday, Wes, and you referenced it earlier. A lot of the starters set, and even aside from the starters, we know a lot of the guys that are even going to play behind, at certain positions. We know, for instance, that South Carolina has, 4 at least edge type guys that they're going to feel really good about in certain situations between starters and backups. But we identified Ross at safety as someone who is going to have a chance to ascend, which he's done, and continue to do so, maybe even through the course of the season. Would it be a huge surprise if he gets some early opportunities, runs with them, plays well, and ends up being a starter, whether it's maybe not by game one, but maybe it's later in the season at some point? That would be no surprise. Again, a lot of guys set in their starting roles, you would think. Safety, is R.J. Roderick probably entrenched as a starter? Yeah, you'd probably think so. But Tyrese Ross has a chance to, maybe work himself in there and continue moving up. And good addition for this team because they need guys at safety, especially ones who can play with physicality. And also, you might think possible special teams contributor as well with his skill set.
Oh, dude, got to be a special teams contributor. I mean, we talked about that, I would say, quite a bit in the offseason, how the lack of depth at certain positions, linebacker, safety, in the spring, those are your special teams guys. Those are your guys that are running down there and covering kicks, covering punts. This guy, not I don't mean this as a negative. This guy was made to help on special teams. That doesn't mean he can't also help on defense, but this is the type of guy you're looking for to excel on special teams. And here's the thing: the secondary safety in particular, it's been a question mark for a long time around here. Dude, I know how some fans, I know their opinions on R.J. Roderick, but if you have R.J. there and Ross playing alongside each other, eventually, you have two enforcers there. Like that's two guys right there who absolutely can hit, which is something I don't know if South Carolina has had two guys at that position in a long time that have that mindset that they're going to bring to that position. So, and I don't know exactly in this scheme how much how interchangeable is it as far as like free safety versus strong safety, who's learning both, how all that works. I'm sure the longer we sort of are around Clayton White, we'll sort of get to know those little intricacies. But if those guys end up on the field at the same time, which I imagine that sometimes they will, you got two guys that can bring the lumber, which is obviously a positive. Some other notes from Clayton White, Chris. I had wondered, I think we even talked about it maybe out loud on the show, who is the fourth defensive tackle? When you look at, you've got Jabari Ellis, obviously Zach Pickens. It seems like that's a shoe-in to be the two starters. We knew Tonka Hemingway is in that next wave. I got a glimpse of the two deep last week of the second team, and they had Boogie in there, Boogie Huntley. It appeared to be Boogie, I should say. I was like, I think that was Boogie. Well, lo and behold, Clayton White today was asked in general, not just defensive line, who has made the most progress? Who has grown the most? Excellent question. Who has grown the most this camp? First name out of his mouth is Hammond's Boogie Huntley. Second-year player now, was banged up. God, man, he had the ankle last year. It was supposed to be a shorter-term thing. It did not really progress as far as him getting better and better. Was out for a long time last year. That's, first of all, good news for a great kid. Has always handled his business the correct way. So you always kind of pull for those guys that have success. But I think that probably answers that question is if, as long as Sandage is out, then Boogie may be your next guy at defensive tackle after, on the field at the same time in that second string with Tonka Hemingway. And then, allow yourself to be, I guess, a little bit excited if you're a fan that the next two names were Mo Kaba and Debo Williams. So the three names out of his mouth were Boogie Huntley, Mo Kaba, Debo Williams. Do those two linebackers push more and more for playing time? Could South Carolina quietly end up feeling decent about their linebacker depth? More decent than maybe we thought they would. Is that a possibility when you hear what White said?
Well, and that's going to be a key for them this year. I wrote about this in an insider report a while back around the time of media day, that I talked to Clayton White at the preseason media day about linebacker depth, even presented him with some of the numbers, which I'm sure he saw and he knew, but just to put it in context, there were games last season where South Carolina played 2 or 3 linebackers the entire game. And so kind of asked him, well, what are your thoughts on how you want to split up your snaps? How many guys do you need? And so, even in kind of when you think of the 2 linebacker defense, a Will and your Mike linebacker out of your base defense, you definitely want to have 3. And ideally your third guy is going to be someone who can play Mike or Will. But really you want to have up to 5 that you feel good about. So 3 to 5. 3 is your minimum. If you have 5, you feel better. There were some guys that he listed that could play both positions. And obviously that gives you more value on this team. He talked a lot at that time about Debo Williams and how he wanted to, once they got out of preseason camp and got into game mode, they wanted to feel better about Debo's progress within the defense, that they could put him out there at the Mike position. Kaba's another one. They wanted him to be able to maybe be a potential interchangeable guy, but just continue to bring him along. Young guy, saw some action last year for the Gamecocks, but wanted to bring him along. And so the fact that they feel better now, they've kept Brad Johnson healthy. They've kept Sherrod Green healthy. They've integrated both those guys into their new roles in this defense. You got a guy like Damani Staley, who he knows both spots. That's one of the guys that White had mentioned. Now, I don't know if Clayton White would say today, I feel like I definitely have 5, but I mentioned 5 guys there. And so if you feel decent enough about it, now you're closer to that mark. That doesn't mean that there's going to be no drop-off between starters. That doesn't even mean they'll play that well collectively as a group, but they feel like there's been progress there. And so that's all you can ask for coming out of camp. So definitely a positive to have those 2 be a few of the players that he mentioned. And with Boogie, I'm not surprised, that he's taken the opportunity with Sandy Jowd and risen even more. He's a professional approach type kid, great kid. You remember Wes, when he was being recruited, he was overshadowed a lot by Jordan Birch, but Eric Kimry, now on staff with South Carolina, always spoke extremely highly of Boogie Huntley as his high school coach, at Hammond when he was being recruited.
Yeah, and dude, I think kind of speaks to something we mentioned probably in the offseason, the belief and excitement within the program that interior defensive line is in a good place, not just like now. I think they feel good about where it is right now, but you have some younger players that weren't necessarily going to have to play a ton this year, but that they feel like they're sort of going to be able to build off of, a Boogie Huntley, and Nick Barrett as a true freshman, a TJ Sanders as a true freshman. It's not one of these things where you have nobody waiting in the wings. You have some veterans there, but then you have some guys waiting in the wings, and Boogie definitely one of those. And you just never – it's always kind of interesting, man. You never know which guys – it's always like, oh, that guy has a chance. That guy has a chance. Until you start to hear and see it play out, you just don't know which guys are going to go from having a chance to take that step. And it appears that Boogie, still very young in his career, very early in his career, is starting to take that step, which will certainly, if you look at that position for next year, there's going to be loads of playing time available for somebody to step in and play. Chris, we're actually a little bit past the midway point. Why don't you tell everybody about our new sponsor, Dead Soxy?
Yep, we're thrilled that Dead Soxy is back with us once again here on GC Live as a sponsor. There you see just, Wes, a very small sampling of some of the types of socks that they have to offer. They've got the Spur line up there as it's billed. If you're on the live show on Facebook Live or Periscope or YouTube, we hope you are, you can see those up there. They've got no-show socks. They've got the boardroom socks. They've got casual, all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. Deadsoxy.com. That's DEADSOXY.com. Super soft, comfortable socks, non-slip, patented technology. They are fantastic socks. Wes and I both are blessed to have some Dead Soxy socks. So check those guys out. And when you use the promo code COCKY, that's COCKY, promo code COCKY, you get 25% off your entire order at deadsoxy.com. So make sure you check out those guys at Dead Soxy. We appreciate their support here on GC Live.
Good stuff. Check them out. Chris, I always wonder, this thing shows us people's Facebook reactions. It shouldn't bother me. It doesn't bother me, but I I wish there was like an explanation on why people, because it doesn't matter. It's an hour show, right? So we could be saying anything when these reactions pop up. And most of the time, it's just people hitting like. You get a few loves in there. Shout out to the people showing love. Then there's always one, and it's a different person every time, that just throws out the angry sign on there. Aaron, we see you, and we know you're angry. We want to know why. Tell us why. What are you angry about, Aaron?
Yeah, if you're angry, because they could be angry at us. They could be not enjoying the show. We could have said something dumb, inaccurate, or
they could just be angry about
angry in general.
Their Amazon package is late. I don't know. It could be
it could be a Georgia or Clemson fan. We have those guys drop in from time to time. But our overall ratio of happiness is pretty good here, I think. So
I just want to know, Aaron, you can share with us. It's fine, man. We're here to listen. Whatever it is. Aaron, if you're still on here, I imagine it's a hit and run. But if you're here, just tell us. You've got an entire chat full of people who will help you talk you through the issue. Anyway, what else do we want to hit, man? I think we kind of know who the starters are going to be for most every position. It was interesting, man. Today they actually lined up in full kickoff return formation. And man, I'm telling you, Pete Limbo, it's very interesting. Pete Limbo is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet on the planet. Just down to earth. He has a very teacher type vibe. Like he's a very calm, kind of low key, but very detail oriented. And we've seen him go through drills and everything's very specific. And today they were doing full kickoff return. Obviously they weren't like tackling or hitting, but the entire team was out there. And somebody did something wrong. And Pete just said, just get out, just get out. He's sent the entire, whatever that unit was for the back end of the kickoff return. He was like, get the neck. It was like Spurrier, yanking a quarterback. So I was like, man, this guy is so detail oriented. He wants things done exactly the right way. So I'll be curious to see if can South Carolina steal one game because their special teams has some little unique advantage that Limbo, who has just everywhere he's been, has produced great special teams. That would be an interesting storyline for me. But we got a little glimpse, Chris. First kickoff return unit was our boy Juju, and to carry on Joyner. It was sort of you'll see some teams will put one guy back.
Mm-hmm.
Some teams will put one guy up and one guy back, and some teams will do I'm gonna see if I can do this right. One like a staggered, like one guy sort of probably catches it about if it's 2/3 of the field, and the other guy is a little bit further up, but is a little bit further to the left, and essentially will probably receive a third of the kicks. And so Juju was back man, and DeCarrion was diagonal up guy. Which again, we kept saying Joyner, is strongly in the mix there. And then as we've heard more and more about Juju, we've sort of said, man, that'd probably be an easy way to get him a touch or two. So the answer appears to be, at least if kickoff was today, that both of them are going to get some time back there. But I would say not surprising on those two guys being in there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Joyner kind of exited spring and entered the preseason as the top guy there. The word that you keep hearing with DeCarrion Joyner is reliable, whether people are talking about him, how he's played at receiver, how he's come along there, and just his overall approach and attitude, reliable. And that's something that I think Pete Limbo used that exact word in the preseason to describe him too, saying that he was a very reliable player. And so you take that's something that you obviously want in a guy, but then Juju McDowell, he was someone that Pete Limbo said in preseason, hey, I want to get a good look at this guy because we need to take a look at him based on his high school tape. Well, they've gotten a look. Apparently they like what they see, Wes, because this is a guy that has shown that he's in some ways a big play waiting to happen, a way to potentially, as you said, steal a touch there with Juju McDowell and get him in the open field.
Aaron, we forgive you. Aaron has weighed in. He said he's listening with his phone in his pocket, maybe at work. So Aaron pocket dialed the old angry face. Aaron, we're just glad to hear that everything's okay, man.
Yeah.
We thought if that was a cry for help, we were going to be here for you. But I'm glad that Aaron saw that and weighed in, man. And we're just messing with you, by the way. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? We got a tip here, Chris, from Doc, and he wants us to request Luke Day. That's something. I wonder how they would feel about a Luke Day in season interview. They being like media relations, Beamer himself. I don't know, but that's something we can effort. I mean, Luke Day has done one-on-ones with other people. So yeah, and man, Luke Day is a great interview. We probably should have done that during the off season, man. We really should have.
Yeah, we'll get that done. That'd be very entertaining. I'll need an extra dose of coffee, I think, before we do the interview so I can keep up with his energy level. That would be outstanding. Appreciate the tip, Doc, in more ways than one. So we'll try to get that.
Yeah, I would love to do a day in the life of Luke Day. Like, what's he like at 5 a.m. riding into work? Like, is he? It could go two ways, man. I could imagine him like putting on a little Mozart and just being very quiet and just getting in the truck. In my head, I envision him driving a truck and just very quietly, kind of like the calm before the storm. Like you just hear the ding, 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 as he's backing, as his keys go in the ignition, and it's just nothing else is going on. Just very calmly rides into work. Nobody else is on the road. Or I can picture him with like some rock music, just like straight up rocking out, like beating on his steering wheel, like getting fired up, hitting himself in the head. Just just run your energy to the top. Like I could see either way. So we need to do a day in the life. We don't even need the entire day in the life. We just want to be like, Coach, we just need to ride to work with you. He's like, what is wrong with you?
I think he'd be all for it.
But are you not curious now?
That's the key question. That is the key question: is what is he like when he's just chilling, right?
When it's just him and his thoughts.
Yep, I like it. Good thought.
Maybe we can make that happen. We'll see. I don't know what else to talk about, man. I'm freestyling here. I'm throwing out weird stuff. I'm on my second coffee, which is when weird stuff starts coming out of my mouth. So. Chris is working on his body armor. God, I want a body armor sponsorship, dude. I would kill for a body armor sponsorship. I'm all about the body armor. The peach mango is the best, though. Y'all try it. Free pub. What else, dude? There's got to be more stuff to talk about. I will say this. I think listening to Satterfield, he was asked about the turnovers. I think Colin asked him that. He's asked about the turnovers, and he kind of said, yeah, we if you go back and listen to it, he's like, we had too many turnovers in practice, like up until this past week was kind of how he said it. I get the impression the offense has started to like mold into shape a little bit. Just listen to Satterfield talk about how it was compared to what it's been like the last week or so. The quarterback's playing a little bit better. And some of that I imagine, dude, is just that they're starting to cut the offense down. They're getting more and more into stuff they're comfortable with. And that to me is probably some of it, but just that the guys are making the right decisions, where to go with the football. I'm reading into it a bit there. But Satterfield to me seemed kind of like just reading between his lines, kind of low-key, that he was pretty happy with the progress so far.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it, man, is what you mentioned. Satterfield, Beamer, they've been very open in that they've thrown a lot offensively at this team collectively. They've thrown a lot at the quarterbacks, whether it was back in the spring into the preseason. And so as you exit camp, you get into that game week kind of mode that they're simulating, and then you get into the actual game week, of course. You start introducing another team. you've narrowed the things down. And so you do find out based on what you see in practice, reviewing the film, seeing what has worked, what's not worked for your guys, and why. You narrow it down for the purposes of knowing what your team does well in general, plus what you feel like is going to work against each opponent. And so there does come a comfort level with that. It can help. And it can also help that, they've had more time now in this offense. So it is a positive that they have seemed to grow into it a little bit, have done better taking care of the ball. Of course, that's going to be a huge storyline, as I said earlier, for this offense. And none of that is us saying that this is going to be a dynamic offense. Expect the scoreboard to get lit up. But what we know this offense has to do is to be serviceable, move the ball, score some points, run the football well, play to your strengths, and ultimately not turn the football over. If you can accomplish those things, not only game one, but throughout the season, they'll have a chance to have a solid year if they can do that offensively.
No doubt, man. So 10 days away, we will hear one more time from, we'll hear from Beamer several times because we'll hear the call-in show this week. We'll hear from Beamer next Tuesday. That will be his weekly deal. And then we'll hear a call-in show again. So we'll hear from him 3 more times. We'll hear from coordinators 1 more time next Wednesday. Other than quarterback, what is your what's your final week storyline for the fan base to watch? What's your most intriguing thing? Put you straight on the spot here that you're looking forward to following the final week.
Well, I think it's just there are a bunch of them, obviously, but
you got to give one.
Yeah, the one that keeps coming to mind is just receiver and the progression of that group. You hear things. There's no doubt that some of these guys have grown. DeCarrion Joyner has grown more as a receiver because he's healthy. He's there full time, except for some package plays at quarterback. And he's done well adapting and adjusting there. A guy like Josh Vann, he's grown in confidence some. He's been a starter in the 3 wide receiver sets. So we've heard about some of the strides that have been made. I think the key is how well can they play? How much can you get out of that group? And that's not only game one, but that's the whole season. Marcus Satterfield's talked a lot about how it would kind of be, this isn't the word he used, but it would be silly basically for the staff not to look at their group of running backs and try to integrate them in some different ways and get the ball to them as much as possible. You've got a few guys there that you don't want sitting on the sideline. So we've talked about that a lot. The guys that are your best guys, McDowell, Jaheim Bell, Muse, the running backs, those are the guys you got to get the ball in their hands. But there's no doubt they're going to need some receivers to make some things happen. Jalen Brooks on some deep balls, Joyner in space, Van doing his thing. They're going to need these guys to play well. So I think just their continued development, can they catch the ball consistently? That's a huge storyline, and I think that's something, going into game one that's going to continue to be critical.
Yeah, I like that, man. I was going to go with who when they announce those starters. What do they do that 30 minutes before kickoff, an hour before kickoff? When they put that brand new video board to use and roll out the starters, who gets the honor of being the actual starting running back? Now, who it is on the field, that all the guys are going to play. They're going to, like you're talking about, they're going to find ways to get them the ball. I want to know who gets the honor, who gets the first carry, because that matters to running backs. That's a nice little. Now, if you're not the guy, you got to just flush it and say, I'm going to go do the best with the carries I get. But you've got obviously Kevin Harris coming back, but has missed almost all the preseason. Zaquandre White has done everything he can to earn his way. Marshawn Lloyd is back healthy. I said, I guess that was last week, that if it started then, that 11, Zaquandre, would have been getting the first carry. But Satterfield said today, look, guys, this thing has been it could change every day because they're all pushing, they're all fighting. In the long term, is it going to matter who the starter is at running back? Probably not. But the rest of the offense, for the most part, seems to be Chris, I think we could probably predict 9 of the 11 starters on offense 10 days out right now. And if everybody was healthy, I think we would nail 9 out of 9 if we said, we know 9 starters. The other 2, quarterback and running back. I would know which way I would lean, but I would not be feeling all that comfortable with my guess. Defense, how many do you think we would be able to nail right now on defense?
Oh, definitely. I mean, just thinking, sort of counting them, definitely 6 right off the top. Shoot, probably,
I think 11.
Yeah, I was going to say 10, maybe 11. Yeah.
My one that I would maybe think twice about would be, does Tyrese Ross push enough that he actually starts? Yeah. And then whether Cam Smith is like available and ready to go. But again, if we're taking out injuries, if we get a pass on injuries, then I think we'd be close to 11 of 11. But on offense, I think it's running back and quarterback that I would tend to sort of be curious about which way they're going. But otherwise, I think the next week is just about – I think they're going to kind of know who the guys are, and it's just about getting them ready. Hey, what did you think of Beamer calling this a mock game week? I mean, I guess that's something coaches do. I thought it's a good idea. It's a good thing to do. He made his case again that, hey, there's no actual scrimmages. You scrimmage yourself, but there are no exhibitions. There's no preseason games, which is still so silly. That is so silly. Why can't you do a joint practice with Furman? Like an in-state local. You tell me Furman in South Carolina wouldn't get something out of that? South Carolina and Wofford, South Carolina and Charleston Southern, just some UNC Charlotte. You tell me they wouldn't get something out of that?
That would be tremendous. I mean, we've seen, the NFL, with the practicing, like you said, the joint practices you see with, exhibitions in multiple other sports. In college basketball, you get like the secret scrimmage, type of thing between teams. Even if you kept it secret, I hope they wouldn't, but even if you kept it secret, I think that would be huge because it does give you a chance to see, at least in some form or fashion, how you stack up. But I think the mock game week, look, good idea, not that it's like you said, people do that, but I think it's interesting because, Eastern Illinois is obviously going to be playing a game, this weekend. So the South Carolina game will actually be their second game as opposed to their opener. So it's just a way to kind of get out of camp, get the players acclimated to how things are going to be during the season and kind of get them ready maybe a little bit more in a more efficient manner, going into the season. So it is interesting and, we'll see, but I would be all for, the practice between two different squads would certainly make it a lot more interesting. Even if you did it for the spring game, might have kind of a bigger event, for that.
That would make way too much sense. I feel like why not roll in? And dude, here's the thing: you don't have to just turn them loose. You could still say, look, we're not going to do live special teams. You could say coaches could structure it however. You could do red zone work. You could set it up. However, you didn't have to just say, "Well, go play." As long as there was a good working relationship between the two staffs, you could get both sides could be like, "Hey, man, we really need to work on this aspect."
Yeah.
Well, let's agree to do it. That's one of the things. And here we are. I mean, this is an off-season discussion. It doesn't really matter, but it really is one of those things that you just kind of, when you really think it through, you're like, why? Like, what sense does it make not to do this? I don't know. I don't get it. Somebody asked earlier, question for you, Chris. Will you be watching Eastern Illinois this Saturday?
I don't know if I'll watch it live. I will watch it. I definitely want to get a look at them. Haven't even gone back. I'm going to be honest, Wes. Have not even gone back and watched them from last season, which was back in the spring. So we have not kind of dove in fully to their schematics or what's changed from last year from a personnel standpoint. But we're going to look at all that. And I'm definitely going to be watching because I think there's some things to digest and take in about this team. Obviously, every week, no matter the opponent, on GamecockCentral.com, here on GC Live, we're going to dive into the opponent, dive into South Carolina, how they match up from a variety of standpoints. So in order to do that, need to check those guys out. And so pretty cool that they do have a game, week one, so that we can get sort of an advanced look at what they may bring to the field.
Yeah, and I'm not complaining, man. That is pretty cool. You've got, let's see, I was going to try to give y'all. Oh, I got it. So, yeah, Saturday, August 28th, Eastern Illinois at Indiana State. That is a 6 p.m. Eastern time. You do have to have ESPN Plus. So you're going to have to subscribe to that or borrow your neighbor's password or whatever you got to do. It is on ESPN Plus. Chris, something I've been meaning to hit on that y'all bear with me for 1 second. Let me find it. That I've been meaning to hit on. I've seen a lot of discussion about South Carolina's game and how to watch it. And you will remember we talked quite a bit about how do you watch the Longhorn Network.
That was awesome.
Going into the South Carolina-Texas game. Here's the thing. The game is on ESPN Plus, but you do not have to buy ESPN Plus to watch this game. The game is also on SEC Network Plus, which if you have SEC Network as part of your provider, you automatically will have SEC Network Plus. You will need to do it on a streaming service, not even a streaming service. You'll need to do it on a streaming device. So Fire Stick, Roku, your computer, whatever the little Apple thing is, whatever it is, as long as you can get the ESPN app and then log in with a provider that has SEC Network, you should have access to the game without having to purchase, I don't know what it is, $6 a month, something like that for ESPN Plus. So that's been a misunderstanding. I've seen people on our board, well, how do I get this? What do I have to pay for it? But you don't. That's more for people who don't have SEC Network or don't have it. If you have no other, provider, satellite cable provider, you could actually buy ESPN Plus and watch the game if you wanted. But if you have a cable or satellite or Hulu or YouTube TV subscription, any of those, you should be able to log in on ESPN, the Watch ESPN app, and watch the game. We're going to have to repeat that probably 10 times, but it's worth going ahead and talking about because I've already seen people talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, and SEC Network, I mean, I don't have a full list, but I mean, I think most of the providers that are out there are going to have SEC Network, right? So, I mean, whether you have cable, Spectrum, AT&T, Uverse, whatever it may be, YouTube TV, Hulu, all those people are going to carry SEC Network. So you just need to verify that your provider has SEC Network or just know it, and then have a way to log in, have credentials to log into your provider. So that might be your YouTube TV login. If you're like me, if you have Spectrum, you need to have your online login credentials for Spectrum. Find the ESPN app, log in, and you're good to go.
Thomas says, I've got ESPN Plus. I need a new smart TV with an app. Thomas, it really just depends on are you going all out? It really just depends on how much money you want to spend. I always use a site called cnet.com for reviews on stuff like that. There's a ton of different review websites, but I use CNET. If you want to go all out on it, I mean, Samsung is always a great TV. But they say these days the LG TVs, the LG OLED TVs are pretty much the highest picture quality you can possibly buy, but they are a pretty penny. So it really just depends on how much that matters for you. Doc says Vizio, bang for your buck. Absolutely. If you're looking for that best value per like picture quality, Vizio is probably I've got a Vizio TV that I had in college that 32-inch Vizio TV. I bought it when I was in college, and it's now my bedroom TV. It's still going strong to this day, which is impressive. So
pretty impressive. And Bob Stanley is rocking out a combo I have, a TCL Roku combo.
okay,
That is actually our little spare TV that we take out on the back porch, whatever it may be. I got that thing for like $99 on an Amazon Black Friday. Ridiculous. So Roku, boom. So, man, we're handing out all sorts of free advertising. Body Armor, TV companies.
Yeah, we are.
Just saying.
Yeah. Now, of the ones, I'll say it like this.
Yeah.
Of the ones, if LG wants to give us a sponsorship, give us a call. That's every time I walk in Costco, I go by those big 75-inch TVs, and I just stand there and I just look up like this. And Mackenzie's like, Wes, we got to go. She's like, we got to go get food. Dummy,
come there watching a movie or something.
Yeah, it's like, come on. And I'm just sitting there like. So maybe one day on those. What streaming device you get? Somebody else is asking. I do Fire Stick. I got friends that have Roku. Chris has Roku. I mean, it's really just about what interface you prefer. I think they all stream well. I will say this. I think the streaming devices, Chris, stream better than the built-in smart TV. Like, I know it's like the cool thing to have, it's a smart TV. It has all these apps. Well, the apps ultimately are out of date. Whereas if you just get a Fire Stick, you just get a Roku, those are much more easily upgradable. And in my experience, the streaming quality is more consistent. So anyway, yeah, Bob says the LG OLED is susceptible to screen burn-in if you watch channels with a constant static image. I don't want to hear that, Bob. I guess we can say we can.
You're ruining
not
it.
Good, Bob. We can say that now because LG is not a sponsor yet. If LG was a sponsor, I'd have to delete that comment, Bob. All right, this show is over. It's running off the tracks.
That'll do it for our technology hour here on.
Yes, thank you for coming to our TED Talk. But yeah, this was fun. Appreciate y'all as always. Nobody's left. I don't know. I figured I'd be running them off right now. Do this again Friday. I know we said we were going to try to do every day this week. It has not happened. Next week, every day, every single day.
Game week.
Game week. All right, but we'll see y'all Friday. Appreciate you. Enjoyed the show. Enjoyed the commentary. Y'all have a good one. See you then.